XRP secret origin story, powerful players at work. And if you guys don't know how XRP started and what its point is, well, then you really should look at this video, because this will basically let you know of how XRP got, to where it is today, and what its goal is really, why it will reach $15. In order to reach $15, it needs to do something in the market. So look at that. I really love Sam Trades, because
people at play that are causing new information about XRP's creation dating all the way back to 1988 to surface. And in that document, it connects David Schwartz.
So 1988 document about XRP. That is some next level stuff.
Is a CTO of Ripple. So if this information is true, XRP's story did not start in 2010. It was engineered decades earlier. And what we're about to uncover could change how we see XRP's role in global finance forever. So yesterday, the first document that surfaced was a patent for XRP, specifically to be used for financial services, providing secure payment.
This is what I told you guys. I feel like this is from 2013, right? This is 10 years in the making. They are preparing to go fully legal with this stuff, not just being another meme coin. This is from 1988, David Schwartz patent surfaces, right? First use, why is it saying here 2013 though? Is it from 1990? Because it's filed in 2013, but I guess 1988 is mentioned. So 2013, 12 years ago, they did it before even when just crypto started. So just so you know, this is not just another crypto coin. It didn't start growing this year, XRP. It started growing since 2013. Again, XRP has been building for 13 years. You guys mostly didn't see it yet, which is totally fine. That's why I'm explaining this to you.
Options to members of an online community via a global computer network, which is XRP's use case. But today, another document came out, and this is another patent. But what strikes out is the date of the patent, which is 1991, and it was filed on August 25, 1988. And we can see David Schwartz's name over here. And essentially what this patent is the design behind the XRP blockchain. So very important, it's not for XRP. It is a technology behind XRP. So a user asked whether or not this document is legitimate, and Grok answers stating that yes, the document appears to be a legitimate United States patent. We have the patent number over here.
But literally in the patent, it says that the patent is from 2013. So it literally says, but here date of patent is 1991. So the computer systems, they kind of predicted this for last 30 years. And I'm not too surprised, because if you want to go over your competitors, you have to first get a patent, right? So somebody doesn't take your idea. And this is it, XRP here. The first, origin.
Way similar to XRP. Gemini the exchange tweeted, prepare your bags.
Prepare your bags,
and we
XRP.
See XRP.
I feel like there's going to be an XRP MasterCard, which makes total sense compared to how much, volume it gets. This is very common, actually. So it's going to be just like a crypto card that Gemini is going to use. And probably you're going to be charged some fees, but you can sell your XRP for the card.
Credit card over here. Not only that, but they also replied to this tweet stating could be big.
With just how much volume, how much money is in XRP, it makes total sense. But these people, they don't still realize what XRP is.
So on August 25th, the XRP MasterCard is dropping with the help of Gemini. But there's even more. Ripple and SBI plan to distribute RLUSD in Japan. So one thing about Japan...
So yeah, pretty much XRP is going worldwide, not just in US, guys. That's another factor, is XRP has been getting partnerships first outside of US. That's what people forgot to mention. Because of all the lawsuits, they could not make partnerships in the USA. Now they can make the partnerships in USA. That's why they got so many partnerships last year. So yeah, very bullish news overall.
And they are heavily adopting XRP, and they plan on at least adopting 80% of XRP in their banking systems by 2030. So SBI Holdings is one of the country's largest financial groups and has been a vocal proponent of XRP. Its CEO has publicly stated that all Japanese banks may begin using XRP for transactions by 2025, emphasizing its real-world utility for international remittance and cross-border payments. 80% of Japanese banks set to adopt Ripple's XRP by
I feel like it's very clear that it's not just XRP cryptos going for, the thing we have right now. It's not just US coins, expanding in the USA, they're expanding around the world. It's not just US banks, having these partnerships. It's everyone around the world is what I'm trying to say here.
2025. So Japan is on the verge of significant banking transformation as almost 80% of the country's banks are looking forward to...
Like Japan needs cheap transactions too. The transactions there are probably very expensive.
Adopting XRP into their system in 2025. So this is huge. The total valuation of the Japanese banking system sits at $17 trillion. And if XRP is to have an 80% foothold in the Japanese banking system, that would mean $13 trillion in liquidity coming to XRP, which
I feel like a lot of people forget that Japan and Korea are very rich countries that are going to be working with XRP. That's a lot of money coming in.
Is massive. So the total assets of banks in Japan were approximately 17 trillion US dollars in 2023. So this is just the Japanese banking system. What about the US? So the United States primarily relies on the SWIFT banking system to send out wire transfers globally. And the SWIFT network facilitates a vast volume of international financial transactions. It handles approximately 5 trillion in money transfers per day, which amounts to about 1.25 quadrillion annually. And Brad Garlinghouse has stated in an interview he believes XRP will at least have a 14% foothold in the SWIFT network, which would equate to about $1 trillion in money transfers every day.
Now that's a lot of competition for Swift, right? And Swift is a very big market. It isn't like the biggest top 5 by market cap in total. So again, this is a very, very big market in terms of money. Nobody knows about this because nobody cares about, payment transfers. Everybody cares about like new shoes or Amazon. There's so much money in banks and sending transfers. And that's why a lot of these whales bought XRP at 20 cents.
For XRP. So Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has stated that XRP could capture 14% of Swift's global cross-border payment volume within the next 5 years. So he projected that it will reach this by 2030. So we gotta wonder, why is XRP's price down even though all of this good information is coming? The SEC dropped their case. Japan is stating that they want at least a 80% adoption of XRP in their banking systems, which equates to about $13 trillion. And XRP is on track to take over 14% of Swift's platform by 2030. And all of these documents coming out, laying down the foundation for XRP, really raises some questions. So Cathie Woods has some important information.
I feel like it's very important to say also that the whales are selling right now because they're just following the markets, right? The whales are going to sell when they make the most money.
To share about digital assets, and I'll explain to you how this can potentially impact XRP.
We just learned from one of the founders of Tether, Paolo, that they had no idea that Tether would become an important source of dollar exposure to emerging markets until COVID, when the children of in families in emerging markets would go to their parents and say, you don't have to go into the black market today to buy dollars. We can do this on the internet. And that's how it really spread, which is fascinating, isn't it?
You heard what she said. You don't have to go to the market to purchase dollars. You could just do it on the internet. Now, what does that mean? Families in emerging markets, which basically means people from other countries that are underdeveloped, are getting more and more into cryptocurrency, specifically XRP. So if you look at this chart over here,
a lot of these countries will profit from low payment transfers. Again, these are the countries that will really feel the effect because maybe $1 is not a lot in the US, but sending $1 in payment transfer fees in these developing countries is much, like 10 times much hitting hard, So when they want to send the transfer to a family member, if $1 gets sent, that might be like 1/100th of their wage or 1/300th of their wage. While in the US, it might just be a fraction of what we pay for a coffee.
It is a map of Africa, and all of these countries have adopted XRP, which include Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya. and the list goes on. And the reason as to why they're doing this is because their national currency is getting heavily inflated, so they can no longer rely on it. Some of these countries have inflation rates up to 25%. So if you have $100, the next year it's only going to be 75. And each year it just keeps on compounding, resulting in massive losses to inflation. XRP plans to solve that problem, and they are currently doing that.
We thought Bitcoin would serve that role because we didn't know about stablecoins. And even very recently, I think we're becoming very...
Also fair to say that's why RWA's real world assets are starting, because literally for that reason, people want to invest in the dollar because it's not going to get hit by inflation, especially now that the dominance is low. If the dollar dominance gets back up, they're going to be holding the dollars basically in these real world assets, or tokenized dollars, as we can call it. It's going to be something that, also XRP is building.
Surprised at how quickly the uptake of stablecoins is. So I think the much bigger force right now is it's the gateway into digital assets for institutional. It's a new asset class. That and the really substitute for gold as a store of value.
So Bitcoin is seen as a store of value, and it's not practical for international transfers if you're doing it on a very large scale. So in terms of institutions adopting Bitcoin into their payment systems, that is very not likely to occur because there's other options such as XRP, which is very low in fees and payments are instantaneous. However, if a bank was to adopt Bitcoin into their payment systems and they're sending over 1,000 transactions globally, and each transaction could take upwards of an hour, it's really going to hurt the bank, since it's going to take a lot of time for those transactions to go through. And what we're seeing is more and more countries adopting stablecoins and XRP. We can see over here, Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin has experienced significant adoption growth, surpassing a market capitalization of 600 million.
The regulatory environment is very important here. We've gone from a hostile regulatory regime under Gensler at the SEC to a very, very friendly regime now, with legislation guiding regulators instead of regulation through enforcement, which was forcing innovation off U.S. shores to other countries. And now that's changing aggressively, especially appointing David Sachs, the czar for both crypto and AI.
So the ongoing case,
it's going to be cheaper to send transactions around the world,
with XRP and the SEC has been dropped. There's finally been a resolution to the case, which has opened the floodgates for institutional adoption and also ETFs to get incorporated with XRP. Yet at the current moment, XRP's price is slightly under $3, or around the $3 mark, simply by all of the volume and liquidity that is going to come into XRP in the coming months. I do not imagine it will still be trading at $3. It will be a lot higher.
Over the last...
that happened also with the lawsuit. You could buy XRP for 20 cents. There is risk, of course, in the market. And now the market is pumping, but once people realize the true potential, XRP price could be undertapped. That's literally what happened with XRP when it was 20 cents and people did not buy it.
30, 40 years, because we didn't have the payments layer. We needed to, and because financial services and commerce did migrate onto the internet in a very big way, the traditional world had to mitigate the risk of putting credit cards online and, trying to use traditional financial tools in this internet world. And all of the intermediaries involved have been taking anywhere from 2 to 3.5% out of each transaction paid for mitigating the risk.
That's a lot. 2 to 3% is a lot of money. Like for transactions, come on, that's XRP is gonna do it for 0.001%. Does the math add up? 2%, 0.1%?
That is a direct reference to the Swift platform. There's two reasons as to why a Swift platform is not practical and XRP will take over. One, it is heavy in fees. They take a percentage. And two, it is so slow to send over a wire transfer globally. It takes upward of 5 days. XRP plans to solve that problem through its instant payments and low fees that are fractions of a penny. that are burned. So all things said, there are some big things happening with XRP right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it does play out. Honestly,
it's gonna take like a millisecond to send a payment transfer anyway.